Welcome to another painting tutorial. In this one we look at the Dark Eldar Scourges. Here's a spin around look at them when they're all done. I showed you quickly the paints there, that'll be at the end, and you'll want to check out my blog to see that image, and you can probably copy it or save it or whatever. Okay, so I did the Incubi Darkness sort of off camera. I used the airbrush to kind of base coat things and then do overbrush, or sorry, directional sort of object source lighting with them, and then did some dry brushing. There's really not much to that, so just use the basic GW colors, and then I'm using black there to do the wings. Okay, and then I tried dry brushing with Longbeard Grey, thinking that this would look decent. I end up going over this later, so don't worry too much about the stage. So the wings obviously are a pretty big focal point for these guys, and so I want to make sure that they look decent. And so I do them with a sort of the Thunderhawk blue. Okay, so I'm doing lead belcher on any of the silver bits here, sort of the guns and some stuff in their grenades and stuff like that on their belts. Balthasar Gold for some of the gold bits on the guns as well as their masks, and a couple little details here and there on the armor. If you've seen any of my other Dark Eldar tutorials, you'll notice that this is the same paint scheme as all the other ones. So Dark Reaper, so I'm painting this kind of an overbrush on the wings, so kind of going over that pretty thick overbrush, and I'm going to do a wash on it later. Okay, so Screamer Pink on the hair and any purple bits, so it's basically the hair. I don't think there's anything else actually that's purple on these guys, or pink, or whatever color it's going to look like. So yeah, the scheme I'm using for my Dark Eldar is pretty much the standard one. It's in the Games Workshop How to Paint Citadel Miniatures book with these new paints, and pretty much the same colors to the T. So Caldor Sky for the blue bits, so I'm using all the combat drug stuff like this. Some people might want to do that in green. I chose blue, but same concept either way. Rakarth Flesh for any flesh bits that's showing through the costumes these guys are wearing. So some of them have exposed arms and feet and that sort of thing. So basically I'm done all the base coats, so I'm doing my washes now. So Newland oil for anything that's black or silver. And also I do that on the leathery bits on the armor, just to give them a bit of a different tone. Agrax Earthshade for all the gold. And again, if you've seen my tutorials, this is the way I like to do it. I like to do all my base coats sort of at once, and then do all the washes at the same time as well. Drakenhof Nightshade for any of the blue, which in this case is going to be that whip, and any of the combat drug type stuff, so any tubing and that sort of thing. Carroburg Crimson for any of the purple or pink bits, I guess it is, the hair. Reikland Fleshshade for the flesh, and I'm going to give that a blue wash as well. It goes back to that Drakenhof blue. Okay, so Longbeard Grey, dry brushing the bases there, which is the textured gray. And again, that's just the tones that I've used for the rest of my Dark Eldar. Gehenia's Gold for the highlights on the gold bits now. So pretty much from this point on, just doing highlights and everything that I've washed. Runefang Steel on any of the silver. And really there's very little of this, so it's just trying to get some little edge highlights on things so that they stand out a bit better. And so I guess the big exception with the way that I do the main colors is the main green, the Incubi Darkness. So I'm doing pink horror here on the hair. So I did that all at once just because it's the main part of the model. Doing it with the airbrush saves a lot of time. But obviously if you don't have that, you can just do that with your standard layers, and however you like that with those colors that I show in the paint guide. Teclis Blue for the next highlight on these combat drugs, tube lines, and on those vials on their wings. And then Temple Guard Blue for the final highlight on that. well, actually it's not the final highlight. I do some grays on there. So with those vials on the sort of backpack there, I'm trying to give a bit of an impression of levels of liquids in there. And so I'm doing that with each layer of the blue, and then with this here, Ulthuan or whatever it is, the gray, trying to paint that on a little bit more, just to give an impression of the top level of the liquid there. Okay, and there's a couple little bone pieces here, so Ushabti Bone is going on that, so I think it's basically on the base there, so it's not really the main part of the model. The Scourge Sergeant, or whatever they're called, they, in the hair there's a little bit of a bone thing in there as well. And then Screaming Skull. Okay, Doombull, that's going to go on the little pouches on the backs there. Not really much to them. And then Emperor's Children for the final highlights on the pink. Some of those little loincloth things should be flayed flesh, but just to keep things simple, I just did those pink as well. Really, it should have been more of a flesh tone, but I skipped that. Okay, White Scar. So final highlights, and where am I doing that? That is, okay, yeah, on the hair. And then Bloodletter is going to bring that back to a bit of a reddish color. So I did some white edge highlighting on the hair there, and then I'm just toning it down with that the red glaze. And finishing up the highlights on the skin, so going back to the Pallid Witch Flesh. Actually, it's not back to, I used the Reikland Fleshshade first, or sorry, Rakarth Flesh, or whatever it's called. And then some White Scar highlights on this, and that just gives you really sort of that pale Dark Eldar flesh, same as I've done all the rest of my army. Some final gold highlights with Auric Armour Gold, and just mostly focusing on the masks and a little bit on the other things. Okay, so there's those paints, and like I said, it'll be on my blog. Here's a quick look at these guys spinning around. So pretty dynamic poses on them. And obviously from a distance, the black wings, the gold masks, and the pink hair is going to be what you really notice. And then I've got a whole bunch of still images here. You can see these on my blog. I'll put a link in this post as soon as that blog post has been updated. Sorry, on this YouTube video, that would be in the link in the description. Maybe not as soon as this is posted, but shortly after. So check back again, or else you can just follow that URL there. It's like watchingpaintdry.blogspot.com. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Check out my other ones. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. And let me know if you have any videos you'd like to see soon. See you next time.